Okay, so I'm going to do a very quick roundup of what I have read in the last month. Well, it might even be month and a half, to be fair. It was probably from the end of July through to, well, through to now, because I finished this book 2 days ago. Okay, so we'll start with this one. The Ex-Wife Survival Guide by Debbie Holt. Really enjoyed it. It's a bit of a chick flick type book, but set with somebody who's later on in life. Her kids have grown up, they're kind of moving forwards. Her other half leaves her for someone in his amateur dramatics group, and she's kind of trying to find her life, not being a mum, not being a wife, you know, and kind of, it's interesting to have that kind of story, like a love story from an older woman's point of view. And by older woman, I don't mean old woman. I mean, I think she was late 40s, early 50s. So, you know, sort of me in 10 years' time, I guess. She, you know, it was kind of her getting back out there in the world and trying to deal with the divorce and her husband cheating on her and that kind of stuff. So it was a nice twist on some of these sort of chick flicky type novels. Vivian and the versus the Apocalypse. Really enjoyed this. I think this is actually a young adults book. So it was winner of the Young Writers Prize. I can't remember what year it was. 2012. This by Katie Coyle. Really enjoyed this book. Basically it goes through the things that have been happening, sort of like the gun crime and everything in America, and there's this new religion. Basically this guy feels that he's been spoken to by God, and he basically writes the Book of Frick, which is sort of like the new Bible. He prophesies the apocalypse, the end of the world. To be fair, the world does change. You know, weather, earthquakes, all that kind of stuff does happen. But it's about this young girl who is, I believe she's 17, her friend, and this other chap who's early 20s, trying to find out actually what's happened to all the people that apparently kind of ascended. The believers that ascended, and dealing with those that were left behind who didn't make the cut, if you like. You know, Frick didn't choose them, and, you know, kind of how world changes and how religion has made people do some pretty horrific things. Really good book. Thoroughly enjoyed that. This book, actually no, this is a book I finished yesterday. Yesterday morning I finished this. It's Hygge and Kisses by Clara Christensen. This is a Danish word for comfort. So basically when it's so dark and very damp in Denmark, through the winter, obviously it's so much darker there, you know, being sort of north, you know, daylight hours during winter are virtually non-existent. And it's the Danish concept of spending time with people, appreciating what you've got, making everything cozy, warm, and enjoying being with people. It's a bit of a love story and a little bit of somebody finding their path in life. You know, doing what she's always felt she should do, what her parents, you know, thought she should do, coming from the background she came from, and eventually trying to follow her own path, what she really wants to do, what she's passionate about. The people that she meets in Denmark one winter that kind of help her to understand there's more to life basically than 9-to-5 London drudge. Edna O'Brien, The Little Red Chairs. I'll be honest with you, I tried reading this and couldn't get into it. So I couldn't tell you what I thought of it. It was not for me. All the Missing Girls by Megan Miranda. Really, really good book. So it starts off following this girl's life after she's left where she lives when her best friend goes missing. And then she comes back because her dad has Alzheimer's. He sends her a message or a letter basically saying that he's seen her. So she needs to kind of go back and just see what's going on. And then it kind of starts of day 15 of her visit back home and works backwards. And you know, the revelations of what happened back when this girl went missing, the lies people told to protect themselves from other things, and just elements of the story that comes out, and you're kind of trying to guess who was connected to the murder. Or, well, you say murder, I mean, she's missing, so is it a murder or is she missing? You know, is she going to come back, kind of thing. So that actually was a really good book. Really enjoyed that one. Would recommend it. Dear Amy. So this is about a girl who's gone missing. And this Dear Amy, she's a teacher, but she also writes a column in a newspaper, you know, like a problem page type thing in a magazine. And she starts getting messages about somebody who went missing years and years and years and years ago. But it's at the same time as a girl from her school that she teaches at has gone missing. And so she goes to the police, and you know, and this guy who is at a college or a university who, you know, is working into trying to solve some of these old cases, contacts her. And as the story goes on, there's a real twist. There's a real twist in the story, basically, that you were not expecting. Well, I started to guess a little bit, but yeah, it's a really good thriller. Really good. Really enjoyed it. Our Endless Numbered Days. This was really interesting. This is by Claire Fuller. This is about a girl whose dad takes her away, basically, and tells her that the world's ended, and they just literally live in this cabin somewhere, and he raises her in this cabin. They eat squirrels, they eat whatever they can catch. You know, it explains her life for however many years. I can't remember how many years now she was in this very remote place where, you know, nobody else was, and how her dad had told her that the rest of the world had ended, basically. It was just the two of them. And then she sees someone else in the woods, and she makes friends with this person in the woods, and things start to come out. And then when she comes back to reality and back to the world that's going on around her, a lot of things come out. A lot of links are made. It's, you know, all the twisty turny bits kind of all linked together, and there's things you suspect but you're not entirely sure, especially about this friend of hers. It's really good. I mean, the writers really thought about the problems that a girl growing up, you know, going through puberty, going through, you know, becoming a grown-up from being I can't remember how old she was. It was quite a while I read this. So, I don't know, say 8-year-old girl or something, you know, then becomes an adult. I think she might have been away for something like, I want to say 5 years, but I think it was more 10 years, actually. 10 years, I think. It was a long time. Anyway, really, really good book. Really good book with lots of kind of twists. Oh, look, my nails match. Oh, pretty. Anyway, this one's really good. Tall Tales from Pitch End, Nigel McDowell. I found this in the Poundland, actually. Really, really enjoyed this book. It is let me tell you what it is. It's, where is it? It's kind of steampunk fiction, I guess, is what it is. It's steampunk fiction. So it's got a lot of steampunk type references and images that it conjures up in your mind. It's about a guy who is living in a very dictated world in a place called Pitch End. Everything's very controlled. They have these, I can't remember what they're called now, but kind of elders of the village. In fact, they might even be called elders of the village, who control everything, and tell you what you can and can't do, literally deal with your day, you know. So there's no, you know, no timepieces or anything like that. Your day is broken up in certain ways. You do this and then you do this and then you do this, and it's so very controlled. and then how he feels he wants to break away from that. And turns out a lot of these people have talents, have like some people can move things with their mind, some people can make themselves sort of invisible to others. If they don't want to be seen, they can kind of fade back into the background and people don't see them. They kind of have these talents, and it's basically how the elders are controlling and the rebellion against it is what I'm going to say. The rebellion against what the elders are saying, you should do and how you should live. Oh, excuse me, I've got a bit of a cold. It's really cold out there. 4 degrees this morning. Okay, Catriona Macpherson's The Child Garden. This one was the one I read just before this one up here. So I read this one last week. Loved this book. It's about a woman who has a child who has some deteriorating condition, who the child is in a home. She looks after the house that is connected to this home, and she visits her son and the owner of the house that she is in and kind of the land they're on. And at some point in the past, sort of when this girl was younger, there was kind of a free school opened up. It didn't have many students, but there was a school set up on the grounds. It was kind of very much, it sounds like my kind of school actually, learning through play, kind of free spirits, learning skills rather than lessons. Everything, your maths, your English, science, everything was learnt through trips and experiences, and you're encouraged to be free and play and be wild, basically. Sounds like perfect school for me. Unfortunately, a child dies at the school and the place is shut down, and it tells the story of what really happened. It follows basically each child who was there as an adult is slowly being targeted, and it's finding this girl and one of the lads, well, he's now a man, who was in that school, reconnect, and it's finding out what is going on, why these people are being targeted, and he's being set up for something. So, or is he being set up for something? Is he more connected to it? You don't know. There's so many moments when you think and then you're like, well, actually, maybe he is more involved than you think he is. Who's telling the truth, who's not telling the truth, what was the true story about what happened the night this lad died. Really, really recommend this book. Really do recommend this book. The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out of the Window and Disappeared by Jonas Jonasson. This was brilliant. Really enjoyed this. An awful lot of references to big historical events like the development of the atom bomb, certain like lots of bits in war, during the various wars. And it turns out this guy here, Alan, has been involved in more of these things than basically his whole life has just been kind of winging it and wandering from one place to another. And his story is told alongside the story, like the present day story of him deciding on his 100th birthday he didn't want a big party, and he didn't want to do that in the old people's home. He wanted to go out, and ends up getting himself into a situation where he has acquired quite a lot of money in this suitcase that's not his, and has sort of a gang after him. And so it's kind of a present day thing, how he meets these people and how things are happening in present day because of this situation with the suitcase that he's got that's full of someone else's money, but also links back to all these events in history that he has actually ended up having huge impacts and kind of almost world-changing moments in his life, and all these world leaders and various other things that he's had links to, and his kind of complete disregard for anything. He's not really interested. He just goes with the flow, whatever happens. Yeah, okay, yes, I've suddenly been given all this money for doing something. He has a habit of blowing things up, which he seems to enjoy, but he doesn't always intend to blow things up. But this was a really good book. Really enjoyed it. It took me longer to read than I should have done because I was kind of doing more of my videos and stuff and not reading as much. but it was one that I definitely wanted to get to the end of. So yeah, definitely worth reading. So those are the books that I have read in the past probably 2 months.